Oh my god, I just convinced myself that I was in the fucking Strangers. A balloon from a birthday party recently kind of just floated in and out of my door frame, and I fucking lunged at it all freaked out, just abject terror. I'm gonna post this right now. So yeah, that happened. Let's get to the review. Strangers Prey at Night. So after what went on with the iconicness of the original Strangers, just how absolutely impactful it was, how realistic and kind of grounded it portrayed this random act of violence. You know, it was inevitable that eventually we'd get a sequel, and eventually we got it. Now we're getting this new trilogy, so it's a whole-on franchise now. But getting into 2, it just feels like a much more dumbed-down approach to this material. I like the style, I kind of like the slickness to it, and there's fun to be had with taking a more typical slasher route with this franchise, but it ultimately feels like they have to dumb down the main characters so much and make the strangers omnipotent gods in order to make this movie work. And that is the worst offense that it can do. Obviously, the husband in the first movie isn't fucking smart. He does really dumb things. He doesn't believe his girlfriend or wife or whatever, but he's established to be a dumb person. He lies. He lies that he knows how to operate a gun. He lies about so many things that it doesn't really come as a shocker that he'd be stupid in these life or death situations. It doesn't really make sense for almost any of the choices in this movie with this family. They're not portrayed to be dumb, they're not portrayed to be dumb people, and it really doesn't make ultimate sense why they would make them so dumb. At the very least, they do a great job of re-establishing the strangers in this world with this opening. It just feels like they're cutting their teeth with some good old classic stranger scares, just random people that happen to be in this place at the wrong time, and the strangers got them. That's the usual deal with them, and that's kind of what puts them in their greatest element, the best as characters. From the beginning, I was a little bit nervous that we'd get shackled to unlikable characters, and I will say, I don't think they're unlikable. I was worried that we would get the prototypical kind of ungrateful son, ungrateful daughter, they'd be annoying, whiny, but we really don't get that. But, you know, these other problems do arise. We're gonna get to that. But the fact of the matter is, in the beginning, I did have these thoughts because in the beginning, they kind of do seem to all hate each other. And it's just not pleasant to watching a family where nobody gets along. It's frustrating. Having kids that come off as ungrateful and insufferable never seems good. I get really sick of kind of the teenage daughter, teenage sons being rebellious and mean to their parents for absolutely no reason. That stuff just gets very sick to me, and you know, thankfully they kind of drop the act very quickly. And for a while, I will say, I do track along in this movie. I'm enjoying it, I'm watching it, it's very watchable, but I just get taken out by the amount of stupid ass decisions that these people make. It's frustrating, and it is especially frustrating when you think about the fact that this is just ultimately a dumber version of that first movie. I just don't really think they understood what was effective about that first movie. Just a quick, short thrill ride. But at least this is kind of a short, quick thrill ride, but it has a lot of issues. It's got a lot of fun set pieces, scenes, chases, all that good stuff, but it comes completely at the cost of the characters and their credibility and their decision making. They literally make that fucking dumbass in the first movie look like Thomas Edison by comparison. And like I said, you know, with the first movie you can kind of forgive it because that guy was written to be weird, kind of unlikable, seemed kind of dumb, a little bit sheltered, kind of in a bubble, so he doesn't know how to handle real world violence. He doesn't know how to navigate in a situation like this, and he's completely in and over his head and in denial that something like that could even happen to him. And the things revealed about him and how competent he is, it just all feels like it falls in line with his decision making and it's coherent, so I don't get really too taken out of that part of the first movie. But this family, they don't seem like they're supposed to be portrayed as stupid or incompetent, yet they make every possible stupid and incompetent move that they could possibly make in this situation. This movie would have ended so much earlier if they were just normal human beings, but they're not, so we're stuck with them doing dumb things, being dumb characters, and that's what we're stuck with. What I commended about the first one is really a negative in this one. It feels like this time these strangers do have that Jigsaw level immunity and expertise that gives them total plot armor at every turn. They have an expertise on the human psyche somehow and always know where someone's hiding or where they're gonna go next. They have a plan for everything. They always know what to do, and it's just so an inverse of the first movie where it felt like everything was kind of just happenstance. I will say some of what I like in this movie is that they play up the strangers' quirks a little bit more. You kind of get more distinct personalities out of them instead of just, people with masks that have bloodlust. They have a love of music, they have different traits and even talk a little bit. It just makes it feel like there is a little bit more service to having a sequel than I would have originally thought. It also puts them more in line with more traditional slashers like Art the Clown, The Collector, all those other guys. But at the end of the day, I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword because it comes at the cost of taking away what made them scary, that aura, that mystery. So that's a little bit of a cost-benefit analysis there, I know I'm nitpicking a lot, but it's hard not to nitpick when everything comes at the cost of what really sold that first movie. The realism. That was entirely the whole selling point of the first one. And when you take that away, it just... What's even the point of making this a Strangers sequel? Why not just make it a different movie about a cast of people with masks that want to kill people? They're so tonally kind of night and day and what their approach is to these characters that it almost just feels like they shouldn't be sequels to each other. The whole thing was based on being a very realistic, kind of grounded, random act of violence, and that was the horror of it. But with this, it feels like a fun, flashy slasher movie, and that was never what the first movie was. Now the strangers are basically gods that know where you're hiding at all times. They are planted in random places where they know you're eventually going to hide so that they could take you by surprise. For the most part, the strangers have insane plot armor throughout most of the movie, and it also happens to be that the characters involved make absolutely terrible decisions. And kind of getting more into spoilers, killing all three of the strangers is just a wild thing to do, especially when you kind of amp their plot armor throughout most of this movie. It's a little bit underwhelming that they did that, and also just who ends it to? Why would you make a sequel to this just to kill them all off? I don't really see the service or the purpose in doing that unless you were leading to something bigger or more strangers or some dumb plot about them being some kind of hive thing and there's more strangers or these are not the same people. I don't know what the deal with that is, but I just found it a very odd decision to do in a movie like this. But even with that, they still give the strangers like superhuman strength beyond belief. In totality, it's just a thing of where it was a big mistake to try and take the approach to these characters like you would with a Freddy or a Chucky or a Jason. This is not what made those characters so iconic, what made the strangers so interesting, and what made them stick in the public consciousness for this long. And I think that the fact that it's rooted in that is just a fundamental flaw in this movie, and it's a fundamental flaw that this movie can't escape. That, the character decision making, the neon lights, the fun chases, all that stuff just can't overcome it. So this movie is just ultimately a flawed ass movie you can maybe have fun with, but it's really nothing more than that. It doesn't hold a candle to the first movie, and it's not very good. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Strangers Prey at Night. Are you excited for the new trilogy? Do you have thoughts, hesitations? Let me know. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.